Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, great to be here.
So I wanted to start off and start with our two writers. A question for you guys. So obviously this is based on a true story of an LGBT icon, Louise Pierce. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how you went about adapting the story.
Max, well, why don't you jump in here?
Sure thing. So the original idea for this, actually, my background's in biology. And so I learned about Louise Pierce kind of quickly, during a lecture. And I was just so shocked to learn that someone this important only got a paragraph in a textbook, if that. So we looked more into her life, and we found out there's such an interesting person behind all the accomplishments. And there's a pretty good record of, what she was able to do in the Congo as well as in New York. And there was a whole way to fill in the story. And I think we did an okay job of that.
Absolutely. Did you find most of your background information, books, articles, all over the place? Was there one maybe source material that really stuck out to you?
It's funny. There really wasn't one main source material, because it's almost like she's two people. There was a lot of articles on her work in the Congo and the science behind it, but also a lot on her personal life in New York City, because it was so odd at that time to have, an out-of-the-closet lesbian woman, especially when it was polyamorous. It was, and she was really one of the first accepted figures in American society. So it was interesting. It was almost like two different main source materials, or sources at least we could take from.
Absolutely. And, I think, with anything in an independent pilot, it's difficult to shoot on a budget, but a historical piece, exceptionally challenging. And I was wondering from a production standpoint, if you could talk a little bit about that process and what challenges you've been into and how you were able to overcome them.
Yeah, I mean, that was an incredible challenge. When Max sent me his script, I really loved it. And I just thought it was such an important story, but I read it and we only had a budget of $20,000. And, this is 1918, New York City, the Congo. But what I found is that when you have a really special story, people work together to just create the impossible. We just had an amazing designer and amazing costumes designer. And I've been making low budget films and shows for about 20 years now. So I really had to use every trick I could possibly have to make this work. But it really was because we had such an amazing team that was so inspired by this totally unique story. But yes, every day was an extreme challenge. And I'm sure Chike, Abby, and Hara can tell you a lot about that as well.
Great. Well, let's go right into it then. Chike, maybe I'll start with you. I want to talk a little bit about your role and the kind of research you did. And yeah, I want to hear a little bit more about the shooting process.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for having us, Randy. I'm such a big fan of SeriesFest, and I'm so grateful to be able to present our show with you all. Like Elias says, the source material was the real thing. It brought us all together. And after in sort of speaking with Elias about the role of Noah and thinking about how much I really wanted to play that part, it then became clear that I really wanted to help bring this to life as well as a producer. So that's why I came on board and helped executive produce as well. But the challenges are always there when you're making shows. Obviously, they're more there when there's less money. But we really had a great group of people who just wanted to muck in. One quick story I'll tell is there's a beautiful scene that we shot in upstate New York, not in the Congo. But the job that was done in finding these locations and getting us on this boat on a river was wonderful. The boat, though, had fiberglass in the base of it. And so I ended up filming with fiberglass, inching its way into my skin minute by minute, and had wonderful set PA or just crew member washing fiberglass off of my backside and legs for a good 20 minutes after we finished that scene. So yeah, it was a great challenge, but I think we were all really, really proud of the end result.
Absolutely. I mean, it really truly is beautifully shot from that first moment, where you see you guys on the Congo all the way through to the reveal of the school. And you can really, you fall in right away immediately. You really understand the world, and it's a tremendous job to all of you. And Abigail, how did you get involved with the project?
That would be the guy that, in my view, is directly underneath me, Elias. Yeah, we can do a little Brady Bunch thing. He reached out to me, and we'd been hoping to work together for a little bit. And he reached out and said, "Listen, I have a role that I think would be perfect for you." He sent me the script. I instantly fell in love. She's such a strong, unique woman, and of course, I jumped at the chance to portray her. I think it's rare to find strong female leads who not only are women in STEM, but also women that are existing 100 years ago, but also women that are lesbian, polyamorous. She's just the whole package, and it was wonderful to dig a little bit into who she was and how she changed the world.
Did you know anything about her story before reading the script?
I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing about her. I had never heard of her in my life. And then, of course, I did a Google search, and I was like, I still know nothing about her life. There's just so very little. I purchased Sarah Josephine Baker's book that she wrote, Fighting for Life, and got a little glimpse into the world that they existed in, and did a little bit of a deep dive into some science journals and found out more about her that way. And the more that I found out, the more fascinated I was. I think as far as history goes, I certainly wasn't aware, maybe precursorily, about the atrocities in the Congo, but it was shocking to me to realize that I wasn't aware. That, I think, was the worst part, was that I did not know.
I felt the same watching it. I had no idea, and I will say it makes up for such a great story.
Yeah,
I wanted
it's relevant. It's
relevant. Absolutely. And Tara, how about you? How did you get involved?
Elias may have to help with this one too, but he contacted me on, it's the first and only time it's not the first, it's the only time that it actually something came into fruition through social media, which was, I think my memory of how he said it was that he had been trying to find the right Sarah Josephine Baker, and he just hadn't found her, and then he knew that Abby and I knew each other, and I think that he watched my reel, and he reached out and said, would you be interested in reading this? And then I also know people that have worked with him, and I know that he's has a wonderful reputation, and then I read it, and I was just completely blown away. But Elias may have a different idea as to how I got the part, but that's my memory of it. But it was a crazy social media moment,
Yeah.
But when I read it, I was just so beyond thrilled. And I, too, had not actually heard about her. And like Abby said, the layers, a polyamorous doctor at that point. And when my character first took over a position in New York, 30 men below her quit because they wouldn't work for a woman. And she said to them, you guys would just come back and give me 1 month. And they all ended up staying. So it was interesting to meet that stuff. And then my boyfriend is a surgeon at NYU. Well, he does surgeries at NYU. And I went to see him one day after we filmed, and there's a huge picture of her on the wall there.
That's incredible.
I was like, oh my gosh, that's me.
That's incredible. I think you and Abigail work together. What's really clear is the chemistry between all of the actors on set. It was just, I always think that's one of the hardest things in a pilot when you start, is really, capturing that chemistry and having it feel so natural. And all of you did that. And again, especially in the historical time period, I was just blown away by all of it. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the music choices, because I thought the music was really beautiful. About the score, the different instruments that were used really struck out to me. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about those choices.
Sure. Well, you are the first person to ever bring that up. And I'm so happy you did, because when you have $20,000, you can't exactly hire an orchestra or even someone to compose music. But I know how important music is and how it really tells the audience how to feel during certain moments. So that was literally 2 weeks of me going on a bunch of, sorry, my son, say hi.
Hi.
This is part of testing at home.
That's the true star right there.
There we go. So I spent hours and hours on this website that I suggest all indie filmmakers use, which is called, yeah, buddy, what? which is called Art List, and I found that music there. So, but it's you know, I think music is such an important part of it, and if we could hire a composer, we would have. But that's the story behind that. And sorry about that little interruption as well.
That, you know, that's the fun of being at home. We get to see a little bit of real life, and that's all good, I think.
There you go.
Well, we're actually at our final question here. I told you it goes by really, really quickly.
Yeah.
But I guess what, you know, do you have any other episodes written? Can you give us a little plot teaser about kind of what happens next?
Well, I mean, Max can tell you more, but what I will tell you is a lot of this show is really about, in order to do something good, you oftentimes need to do some very bad things as well. And that was kind of hinted at the last, you know, minute of the show. But Max, if you want to talk a little bit about, you know, what one has to do in the Congo in order to have a cure. Maybe that's a good way to sort of leave this off.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really, that's a great way to put it. You have to do some bad, sometimes do some good. And it kind of shows how complete and dynamic a person Louise Pierce really was. You know, one, I guess, kind of retroactive criticism of her was that so the arsenic drug she was testing to cure Parkinson's sleeping sickness. She went to the Congo to do that partially because she wanted to save millions of people, but also because it was an area we could do testing on people without any, you know, major blowback. And so that's something to be a huge part of it. We're gonna have to show her first coming to terms with the extent of this, you know, the millions of people infected, and also kind of having to slowly accept that, you know what, in order to treat this, I'm gonna have to be aggressive. I'm gonna have to test in a way that is maybe morally gray, while at the same time we're gonna have, my vision at least, was to have Sarah Jo Baker kind of finding about this back in New York and being maybe partially horrified and looking at this and saying, what the hell are you doing, Louise? Because, you know, she obviously is not an African on the Congo, she can't see what's happening. And then I feel Noah's character is also extremely interesting, that he really is this black Congolese man working for a rubber conglomerate. So there's going to be a lot of questions about that he's going to have internally about treatment of his people, about whether they even see him as a human being or a tool, just to, you know, a face to put him and say, oh, everything's fine here. Look, we have a Congolese man right here, and he's happy. And so he's going to have that internal turmoil to deal with as well as the series progresses.
That's amazing. I'm glad you brought up that ending. I mean, the ending, the last 3 scenes where you see everyone's got a different motive and somebody else they're working for. I mean, it was like just one hit after the other. You're like, no, not you. I felt at the edge of my seat. It was a great cliffhanger and way to leave. I know this is really quick, but we look forward to hanging out with you more during SeriesFest. Thank you so much for all being here and taking time out of your day. And everybody, have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
You too, Randy.
Thank you so much, Randy.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, guys. Good to see you all.